Hello, everybody. Welcome to Totally Tabled. My name is Shaggy, and today I'm doing a quick little first impressions of Merchants of the Dark Road, specifically the solo mode, which is the only way that I've played it so far. If you're listening to this, I'm going to assume that you've either played the game or you've watched my full solo playthrough. If you haven't, please go watch that because that's a much better way of judging this game than listening to me or anybody else blather on about it. But with that said, I'm going to start blathering about this game. I really wanted to talk about this one today because it's been getting some early mixed reviews, surprisingly. And now after playing the game, I have to say that I'm finding those reviews from some, prominent content creators to be baffling at best. Some of their complaints and criticisms, I couldn't disagree with more. I'm not going to try to litigate any of that. You guys can listen to those reviews and then watch my playthrough, and you can judge for yourself whether you think the board is hard to read, or the game is too complex, or you don't like the thematic integration, or whatever else. I think that's all nonsense. What I do want to talk about is something that's come up in almost every review of the game, and that's the dreaded R word, randomness. This game has been dubbed by many to just be too random. Just random. Now keep in mind, I'm coming at this again from the solo game, and a lot of these players have been playing this maybe at 3 or 4, and there's certainly a lot more changes to the board state between turns with more players. That's certainly true. But I want to talk a little bit about the randomness in the game because I think it's being a little mischaracterized. I wouldn't want all this talk of randomness to scare you away from what I consider to be a really, really great game. So first of all, let's talk about the action dice, right? The dice that you have on your board that you activate in order to move around this rondel to take actions. The rondel has 5 steps. Cleverly, the designers have put those steps between the different districts. So every district has 2 of the 5 spots on the rondel where you can access it. That means 40% of the spaces. That also means that either 2 or 3 of the dice faces can be used to get to any building, regardless of where you are. You add into that the possibility of having an illuminated die that has a different value, and horseshoes will let you, move forward or backwards on the rondel. Suddenly you have a lot of different ways of getting to any one of those districts. Not to mention at the beginning of the game, you start with a 1, 2, 3, which basically gives you access to anything. You also start with a horseshoe. And if your locked dice are the same value, you can replace them and make them a 1, 2, and 3 again, which again opens up the board. All that's to say that it's very rare that you have no way of accessing a district that you want to access. You can almost always find a way to go almost anywhere. And if you can't do it on this particular turn, you can certainly set it up for the next turn. And that's the thing, you have a reserve of dice that you've already rolled. Theoretically, at the very beginning of the game, you could plan out your first 7 moves if you wanted to. Now you wouldn't, but you could. I don't find any of that to be random. I find it to be a really interesting puzzle, and the puzzle is enhanced because sometimes there's only that one spot that lets you activate those illuminated dies. And so if you want to activate that at a particular spot, you need to set that up. That's not just going to happen automatically, but you almost always can eventually do that. I really love that dice puzzle. Now, the other bit of randomness comes in those travel dice, where you roll the dice and you are either going to get some sort of reward or some sort of punishment. And of course, lanterns allow you to re-roll those dice, which is part of that theme that I keep hearing is not a part of this game at all. Again, if you come prepared, then that's not going to be a problem. People talk about input randomness versus output randomness and all that sort of stuff. I don't really like to talk about things in that way, but what this game lets you do is to be cleverly opportunistic. Yeah, the board state is changing quite a bit, but it's creating opportunities for you that if you're clever, you can seize them. This game does not reward you for being rigid in your thinking. You have to adapt. That doesn't mean you can't have long-term plans. Look at the playthrough. I had a long-term plan that basically took me the whole game to achieve. But in the middle there, I was seizing on opportunities. People get in trouble with this game, I think, when they think, well, I have a Farglin contract, so I must go get a Farglin hero to go with my Farglin contract so I can deliver both of them at the same time. And that hero isn't on the board, and so, randomness. Or I have to go to the market right now to get the goods for my contract, but the person before me made everything too expensive, randomness. When really, you just do something else. Delaying what you're doing for a turn or two doesn't really hurt you. In fact, it helps to have various different options so that you can piggyback on things that other people are doing, so that you can take advantage when these different opportunities appear on the board. I think people get in trouble with this game because they are thinking and planning so rigidly, and they're not able to adapt and adjust and be opportunistic. And that's what I love about this game. Also, because the scoring is the lowest of your two values, money and prestige, it makes it very easy to pivot back and forth. Well, I was going to deliver this commission, but now suddenly the goods that I have are really valuable. So I'm going to pivot. I'm going to go sell to this hero, get that money, and then go to the market, buy them for a little cheaper, and then go. Pivoting is the name of the game. And that kind of randomness I find to be delicious and fun. Again, I think if you go watch my playthrough, you'll see not just how to play the game, but the mentality that you need in order to enjoy playing the game. At the end of the day, I think it's unfortunate the negative vibe that I feel has come into this game. I'm hoping that the more people play, the more positive reviews will start to appear. This game may not be for you, but it's definitely for me, and I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Again, that's just for the solo mode. I'm very excited to try this at 2 and 3 players, maybe even at 2-player using the bot, which is something you can do, which is cool. I love the way that the bot is handled. It's so easy to control their turns, and I love that. It's very simple. My only negative is that sometimes the bot doesn't have any way of determining whether it should be going after victory points or money. It has no way of balancing those two things out. So sometimes the bot will be, much lower in one than the other, and that can make for maybe an easier game. I kind of think, and this is maybe a Shaggy variant, or maybe someone has come up with it before, but I think taking the average of their two scores rather than just the low would help. It would definitely make the bot harder, and it would make it more consistent, scoring in a little bit more consistent way by just taking the average of those two rather than just the lowest. Because sometimes there's quite a gap between those two things. But other than that, I think the solo mode plays really quickly and easily. This isn't a complicated game. It's not as complicated as people are making it out to sound. Again, watch the playthrough. I think you'll pick it up real quick. It's fairly straightforward, but it just has really wonderful, interesting decisions and a great puzzle at the heart of it. Those are my initial feelings about Merchants of the Dark Road. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and goodbye.